I'm Darius, and I'm together here with Benoit to give a brief presentation and introduction to our zTrieve product. And it's been something that it's been in the making, at least. It's something that we have thought about and for quite a while. So we're really happy to be able to present it today. In a nutshell, zTrieve is our solution to rehost Easytrieve workloads. In the big schemes of things, if you look at mainframe from a distance, it seems to be a detail, it seems to be a footnote. As this webinar will demonstrate, it's not a footnote, and when it's not a footnote, it can really be a showstopper for serious migration projects. And I hope we'll be able to make the case that our solution is very unique as per how we address the Easytrieve workload migration problem. So what is Easytrieve? So we're going to be talking about history for a while. It started in 1972. So it's lovely to have a product which is older than quite a few people on this course. I didn't poll anyone, but you see that this product is more than 50 years old today by companies that have disappeared since. It got acquired by Pensoffic, which is interestingly a fairly famous company because it was a company that developed Penvalet, which you could describe in some way as being GitHub from the 80s. So it really was the version control system that everybody used on the mainframe back in the days, and got acquired by Computer Associates in 1991. And Computer Associates was acquired by Broadcom in 2018, and here we are. And Easytrieve is not a detail. It was considered one of the most successful products of the 70s. And according to some sources, I haven't been able to actually check it, but some sources have mentioned the figure of 10,000 installations when it got sold to Computer Associates in 1991. So it is a big deal. It's a very pervasive product. It's a product that seems to be easy to install and to have quite some stickiness. Obviously, we can assume that 30 years down the road, there are no longer 10,000 installation, but the figure should still be very significant. Technically speaking, Easytrieve is a report generator. At least that's how it started. The idea is you should be able to produce reports more conveniently than by writing extensive COBOL or PL1 programs. It was designed from the ground up to integrate multiple data sources with vSAM files, sequential files, DB2, IMS, IDMS, and have them interoperate as gracefully as possible. The syntax is designed to be as compact as possible so that we're very far from the world of COBOL where you have the sections and that verbose way. Easytrieve, for better or for worse, this is not a judgmental thing, has a very compact syntax so that you can write small programs more conveniently than by using a normal third-generation language. With time, though, even though it started as being a report generator that should just read data from a data source and produce something, it became more versatile. And it has generic file I/O. And I mean, we have been looking at this from quite some detail. There are like fairly amazing features that are as disconnected from a report generator as can be. And this is where things got a little bit annoying, is that if you look at it as being just a report generator, there's kind of a wisdom, which is to say, well, if that thing just generates reports, why don't we use a more modern, a more convenient, a more flexible reporting tool than Easytrieve on the target platform as part of a migration project? What happens is that it got used to implement steps of full batch jobs. In other words, the output was not meant to be just read by a human, but to be processed by another piece of software, which then depend on absolute positioning of the physical representation of the data. Every space, every dot, every period was becoming significant. And that made the replacement of Easytrieve by another reporting tool a super, super fragile proposition. So So just for historical purposes, it's mostly batch. Most of what we're going to be talking about today is going to be batch. There has been an online capability, but we literally never encountered it. So I assume there are some, but we never saw this. Because it's mostly batch, I must apologize in advance because it is the least, I mean, Benoit has struggles to make it a little bit visual because it's as unvisual as can be. And but the purpose of the tool is the purpose of this demonstration is to make the best possible job at showing you how it actually works. When talking about rehosting, Easytrieve is not a new conversation. I mean, there have been solutions around for years. It's never the main concern. Nobody comes to me and say, or to anyone for that matter, nobody comes and say, I have an Easytrieve rehosting project. That's not how it happens. People have loads of COBOL, loads of PL1, loads of JCL, and they have some Easytrieve as, let's say, to some degree, I would call it a distraction. So it's never the main concern, but it can actually derail migration projects. And we have seen some projects, not all, that come to a standstill because of Easytrieve. Because it hasn't been processed adequately, it hasn't been looked after adequately. The most telling sign of this trend comes when people do not even realize they have Easytrieve. In the early assessment of the system, nobody has actually said, oh, we have 1,500, 2,000 Easytrieve programs here or there. They realize, let's say, 6 months within the project that there is that Easytrieve issue that has to be looked at, and that it becomes, at that point, an absolutely gigantic disruption. So the solutions out there, I mean, the ones I've seen, there may be more, the ones I've seen generally convert Easytrieve programs to COBOL. And there are a number of rationale for that. The first is that most of these systems already have some COBOL installed anyway, so it's not the introduction of yet another piece of technology. And from a technical perspective, the data types that are used from within Easytrieve map naturally to COBOL data types, which means that the conversion to COBOL is fairly straightforward. This being said, migrating to COBOL is not the panacea. It doesn't really solve the entire problem. First, because there are things in Easytrieve that are just too dynamic to be conveniently and comfortably converted to manageable COBOL. So there are always going to be some blind spots. There's also something to say about the volume. Remember what I told you, Easytrieve has a very compact syntax, and a trivial translation to COBOL can expand it by factor 50, which makes for a way, which makes for a not very appealing migration process, because you have like a big piece of code to maintain at the end of the process. The execution model is really, really, really specific, and in the sense that Benoit will demonstrate that on an example, I assume, you can actually write a small script and run it as part of a JCL, as a self-contained JCL with a piece of Easytrieve code. And if you have to change that by saying, okay, that Easytrieve code has to be put in the COBOL program, I have to compile it, it has to be in the version control, I have to make sure it's compiled, I have to make sure the load module is deployed. I would say your CI/CD, your deployment process is very different, and that can turn into a very big disruption on the project. We also hear about people saying, yeah, we start with 500 programs, and then it's 400, and then it's 600, and then the scope changes all the time. So to make a long story short, it's a pain. Converting Easytrieve to COBOL technically is feasible, but I still have to hear about someone telling me, oh, listen, it really works great. It's been a pain all the time. So what is it we do in contrast to converting zTrieve code to COBOL, or to any other language for that matter? We provide an emulator. We provide a tool that's going to behave exactly like zTrieve, not a translation service to another language. In other words, we allow your source code to remain in place, no matter how bizarre it may be. We keep it as it is, whether it's in standalone programs or integrated into JCLs. That also means, by the way, that not only do we keep the Easytrieve code in place, but we also keep the JCLs that call this program in place, so that if you have a big portfolio with thousands of programs and tons of interaction between the JCLs and your zTrieve programs, they remain in place. You don't need to do any across-the-board change to your entire portfolio to accommodate this. And we spend a lot of time to make sure we reproduce all Easytrieve's behavior. The dynamic one, the static one, the bizarre one, the exotic one, the expected one, and the unexpected one. There is no intrinsic limitation to the process. And this is exactly how we deal with the rest of the mainframe workloads. We are essentially non-transformational in the sense that we try to keep your assets as they are, just as we keep COBOL as it is. We do not convert COBOL to other languages. I know that there's a market for that kind of services, but that's not what we provide. We provide compilers that allow your COBOL code to remain in place without being changed at all. Your PL1 code to remain in place without being changed. We even do the same with assembler and with JCL, so that we can rehost without having to change, convert, retest large amounts of code. We put Easytrieve in the same box in such a way that we say, well, if you have Easytrieve, it's just a matter of having the emulator installed, having zTrieve installed, and you click on the button and everything should work the same. It minimizes disruption because the organization of the system remains very much the same. It minimizes the testing effort. So that's what I had by means of an introduction. I will now leave the floor to Benoit, who will give you a demo and some more comments about the technicalities behind the product. Benoit, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Darius. Let me quickly share the screen. So again, like as Darius said, the whole idea of Easytrieve is, where it's like mostly happening is within batch. So I'm going to try to show you as much as I can. So this would be as an opening, this would be one of the typical ways in somewhere like in a migration project that you find or you encounter Easytrieve on a mainframe. You would open a JCL, which is go through the artifact that somebody tells you, okay, this is part of what we need to migrate. None of it says, none of it gotten from Endeavor or whatever says, oh, this is Easytrieve. But then when you just go and open some of the JCL, you realize that they're calling EasyTPA00, which is Easytrieve, and what they're calling it with is within the JCL file. The whole point of this now in so I'm here in Visual Studio. This is Visual Studio. Raincoat has a plugin for Visual Studio, which allows you to have a JCL project, which allows you to have Easytrieve program, but also it allows you to just execute this whole JCL right from here. And so when I start it, I'm going to execute this JCL. It's going to produce the output. So a quick opening of that file shows that a file has been produced. Now, this is one of the way you could execute, you could find Easytrieve. The other way you will find Easytrieve is that they will try and compile them. So instead, you will have a parameter segment, or parameter information, and they would then tell you, oh, well, you need to produce a module for it, an actual compilable module. This is where I'm going to show you that I'm going to execute the Easytrieve in compile mode, and it's going to produce a DLL. So if I now run this PowerShell, it's end up producing a DLL for this program, which was asked by the Easytrieve. The parameter says, can you please generate me an assembly? And as an additional thing, it also generated a repository, which I'm going to show what this is about in a couple of minutes. Now, a third way, or one of the most common way, so here we're just putting using the instruction put. But then one of the most common ways that you will find Easytrieve being used is when they use reports. And this is obviously, of course, something if we needed or if we wanted to have an Easytrieve, zTrieve supporting Easytrieve, then we had to support reports. And obviously or else you're not supporting anything really. And we support report, and this is the execution of that report actually produces this whole report file, with the same things you would expect, the page numbers are dealt with, it's going to it does the summary, it outputs the summary test, it does the collation. Like you can like quickly see like how many pages like it goes for, etc., etc. And as with every other product, our Easytrieve, like our Visual Studio plugin, does like take care of like the other like typical thing you will find in a plugin, which is syntax highlighting, to make it like easier to find out where you're at and what is happening in your code. But those are what you expect from like a Visual Studio plugin. Now, what I was showing as the repository ends up being the repository end up like the capability of what we do with it, as we end up like being able to use Raincode. So part of one of our products, which is a Raincode Insight, which helps do assessment at portfolios, and now you generate these artifacts, and it allows you to see everything about your portfolio. What is the split between languages? It's actually like what kind of errors did we encounter when we tried to compile it? You can navigate through it. You can like drill down all of the stuff. You can filter like each of them by language. Or you can want to filter by Easytrieve, it's going to filter like dynamically all of that. It also helps you go into the call graph for all of the different module, which ends up being useful. Sometimes you can again filter by language, and then you can like probably like zoom out. Like this is like a big portfolio, so if you try to like see it as a whole, it can be overwhelming. But like it allows you to just zoom out and find out, okay, well this module, what is it doing? So this is what we can do with Raincode Insight. This is what we can do with our other products, and so we added zTrieve to one of the many contributing factor in Raincode Insight. Now, if you allow me to, so this is the demo, like done with the demo. Now I'm going to go back to our presentation, and as I've tried to, like, we demonstrated, like zTrieve, and as there is like mentioned, zTrieve doesn't really happen alone. zTrieve or Easytrieve on mainframe happens within a whole ecosystem of things and elements. Like it happens within JCL, it happens with like other around other programs, etc. And as such, zTrieve mimics that and is made to exist within the same ecosystem. So as you see, zTrieve is as you saw, it's like able to be called from JCL, like directly, either in stream, in input files, or after it's been compiled. It's contributing to the Raincode Insight, which is our ability to make or to provide meta information about your portfolio, how many of what is calling, who is calling who, the amount of like to basically allow you to just drill down and navigate like and get some information about the whole scope of the migration. That what wasn't demonstrated in in the demonstration is that so Easytrieve can call modules that are callable modules or PL1 or similar, and as such, in the same way, zTrieve can do that equally transparently. So zTrieve module can have a call to another module, and that module can be in any language, and it's going to execute it. So for those who don't know our product, our compilers have the unique capability of taking DB2 statements inside the code and rewrite it against to be able to execute against SQL Server without modifying the source code. So the source code will still contain the DB2, but when you execute it, you can specify, oh, actually it's running against a SQL Server, and it will dynamically, it will rewrite the statement and execute the correct statement. And this is the important part is that, well, without modifying the source code, which sits within the whole non-transformational approach that we have taken. For other types of data, so apart from relational data, you also have like a vsum file and a sequential file. Well, Raincode for that can use vsum. Well, we have this vsum SQL capability, which remaps them on a SQL server, because one of the reasons is that flat files and vsum files, really file system things, are not the most cloud friendly types of storage. So by remapping them to a SQL instance, you're enabling a more cloud friendly approach. And for zTrieve, it integrates with that without need, like, completely transparently. zTrieve you don't need any modification for to access what used to be a flat file, which is now sits in like a vsum SQL. No modification at all in the zTrieve. It just integrates seamlessly. And this is part of like this whole approach. This is part of the whole effort that we have to have all our product as cloud native as possible and integrating with Kubernetes, Dockers, and all the different like container providers. Now, as you've seen, like it really gets, or you can really only integrate like fully if you integrate with the tools on the target platform, which is why we integrate with Visual Studio in as much as we do with all of our product, which is it becomes just like another of the languages that the Raincode plugin supports, and deals as such with the syntax highlighting, like some IntelliSense or word completion, etc. And like the whole idea of the familiar capabilities that people have in Visual Studio, being able to set parameters at launch to run your project and like as part of a development. So currently we are running a pilot project in Canada, which has this. So it includes the Raincode Insight integration to help with the assessment of that particular customer like code base. It also includes executing a significant part of the portfolio, including Easytrieve. And as such, it covers what we have found. What we have found in this client is that it covers a lot. It has a really significant coverage on all the Easytrieve feature that you would typically find used like everywhere. And there are more coming. Now, this brings us to a conclusion of this presentation. So we hope that we've been able to show you that it's like zTrieve is a dramatically different solution from what's out there for Easytrieve support. That we focus, as with all of our Raincode product, with transparency and integration. Transparency as in all of the it allows you to you don't need to change anything from the zTrieve point of view. If you change something on the target platform, zTrieve doesn't have to know. It's just going to execute seamlessly, as in it supports all of the typical part of the ecosystem that he would usually work with on mainframe. It just still supports that. The point is to really just turn Easytrieve into just a checkbox, which wasn't the case before. Like Easytrieve used to take you by surprise and be like, oh shit, we have Easytrieve. But now, just as like when a customer asks, okay, do you guys support sort? Do you guys support that kind of thing? It should be just, do you guys support Easytrieve? Yes, we do, without needing to just make open quotes. That we do. We support Easytrieve except this. It should just be a checkbox without impact. So it should be no impact on the project, because it's not because we don't change the source code. It doesn't like create a disrupting step, and it allows for continuous maintenance. So the zTrieve stays the same, which means you don't. If you need something changed, you can actually just go and change the source code, like they would do on the mainframe during the project, and it's still going to be. You don't have to regenerate all the artifacts, etc. The source code is there. You just modify it. You just like run the next version. It's there, which is an important part of a migration project. To be able to allow like the project's still going to be living as the migration happen, but to allow to this coexisting thing, so the artifacts to just be seamlessly used. And then that's part of like our overall strategy with all of our product, which they are completely non-transformational in the source code, allowing you to not like it, the integrated itself with this whole uptick that we don't want to disrupt, we don't want to create a big generating step, and we want to allow continuous maintenance, and we don't want to have those like, oh well, you need to change any part of like the code, the source code. So this concludes my presentation. I'm gonna give back the microphone to Darius.
Thank you, Benoit. So this was short and compact. I hope it all made sense. Are there questions? Any question? Could you please write them in the chat? We'll give you a couple of minutes to ponder on all this.
So I see a question in the Q&A. So does zTrieve requires zTrieve to be installed? So the answer is no. I mean, or Darius, do you want to take that one maybe?
No, obviously we don't require Easytrieve to be installed. At the very contrary, the whole point of opting for technology like zTrieve is to be able to get out of Easytrieve as a technology. So we are as disconnected as we can. We have no connectors, no interaction, no access, no interface to the original Easytrieve product in any shape or form. We just recognize the same language with the same behavior. That's the extent of what we do as per relating to Easytrieve. You can imagine that in terms of IP, it's also important for us to be as isolated as possible. So, I've got two questions. So the pricing model, it's priced essentially as an add-on on the JCL emulator. So we have a price per developer and per running core for JCL. And if your JCLs include Easytrieve code and you need zTrieve, it's priced as an additional factor there as a percentage. I'll be happy to connect you with our sales team, and so that you can have a more detailed answer to this question. IMSDB, yes, definitely. It's obviously not the core conversation today. So, sorry, the question, very blunt, is do we intend to allow this to go after IMSDB data sources? The answer is yes. It's not the topic today, obviously, to talk about IMSDB in detail as a specific topic, but it is one of our strong suit to have an extensive solution to rehost IMSDB and IMSDC systems. And it's, to be honest with you, as of today, it still doesn't work. It's not the first priority. We assume that SQL, VSAM, and index files were, sequential and index files were more urgent in order to get the product off the ground. But IMSDB is going to be next in the coming weeks. Absolutely. Any other question, anyone? Okay. I think there's one more question popping out. So if your Easytrieve code is updating and writing on the VSAM file, absolutely it would work. So we intend to provide full coverage for the entire functional capabilities of Easytrieve, not just reading files, but also writing files. Absolutely. Obviously, it will not go to native VSAM. It will go to whatever mechanism is in place on the target platform to emulate VSAM, whether you opt for a native file system, in which case, the update and the write will happen on that file system, or either you opt for our VSAM SQL option, which allows us to rehost VSAM system on top of SQL Server. But in both cases, it will absolutely work, yes. Oh, there's more. So IP issues with Broadcom. As you can imagine, this is a contentious issue. So we expect Broadcom not to be happy. We let's say crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in order to be 100% blameless in that area. What I mean by that is that we have made sure we developed that product having absolutely never having had an access to a working Easytrieve system. So we don't have a license that they can argue about. We don't have access to a machine where we can try. None of the people who have worked on this project have ever touched a working Easytrieve system. All we do is to emulate the language. And from that perspective, the precedent is very clear. A language per se cannot be copyrighted. So it doesn't prevent a Broadcom from considering going after us, but we can absolutely demonstrate that in no case have we been exposed to anything privileged that they can oppose us. So that's the extent of what we did against Broadcom. The question as per which .NET runtime environment our zTrieve works on, we run on anything that feels, looks, or smells like .NET, whether .NET Framework or .NET Core, and our entire test suite runs daily, both on Linux and on Windows. So Easytrieve source is in the public domain. That's not entirely true. Easytrieve as a language definition is in the public domain, just as COBOL as a language definition is in the public domain, or PL1 language definition is in the public domain. What is not in the public domain is an actual implementation or a privileged document or any kind. So when Easytrieve source is in the public domain, that's we can argue about whether it's true or not. I mean, this being said, please appreciate I'm so not a lawyer. I spend way too much time with lawyers, especially lately. But the language as such is not copyrighted. So this solution. So this is a bit uncomfortable, asking, oh, can we integrate this product in our competitor's product, in our competitor's solution? So there's nothing intrinsic that prevents you from doing it. So there is no blocker, absolute blocker, except for instance, when if you have Easytrieve, programs that call COBOL, it will only work with our COBOL compiler. Integration will obviously work much better with our products than with our competitors. It doesn't. So there are cases, and we are looking at some of those cases. There are cases where we can just integrate into an existing environment, but that's not exactly what we try to do. We don't try to be something that can integrate in anyone's. We really want the thing to shine and taking advantage of when integrated in our ecosystem. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending. The recording of this webinar will be made available with all the hiccups and the errors and the hesitations of all kinds. So it won't be edited. You'll be able to make fun of us all you want. In the meantime, have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, depending on your time zone, and we hope to hear from you soon.